Folks, Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into it, I have a few things that we have to do, including pay our bills. The Historical Fencing Guild Livestream is brought to you with the love and support of our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory. That's IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, and musicians. We're also made possible by sales of the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of our ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled the sword to teaching the art to others. Now, the most important people are the ones listed at the bottom, who are my Patreon patrons. The numbers have fluxed a bit, so names may get shifted, but I could not do what I do without your support. It is amazing and it is necessary. Today is a big day. This is, I believe, if my math is correct, the 19th birthday of the Historical Fencing Guild. I've been at this a while. So, with that, I want to talk about what it's going, where we're going, what we're doing, and what's been going on. I know I took a couple weeks kind of off. I had some difficulties. The reality is I am a parent of a special needs child, and we were on a particularly difficult patch. I think things are looking up. Now, getting back into the guild. Nearly 20 years ago, the Historical Fencing Guild started as an addendum to both the Society for Creative Anachronism and as a Rosetta Stone, not a olive branch to different groups and organizations, all with the intent of allowing martial artists, swordsmen, of whatever group and interest to come together to train. We have had many practices, and while we were there, we could not spar, which was part of the point. Part of the point of meeting at the library's workspace was that we couldn't spar. We could only talk about technique, resources, slow drill and demonstrate, crafting and repairs, all the things that you lose as soon as the option of armoring up and fighting happens. It also gave us a chance to sit down and work through the bogs of numbering systems and vocabulary across dozens of different martial systems to try, instead of seeing what we argued about, what we differ on in weapons and approach, but first to build a basis on what we mostly agree. Much in the way the Simple Sword is built on the basis first of agreement, then of conflict. It allowed us to help people get equipped. It allowed us to help people move forward. Now, for the first time in a very long time, I feel like we are getting towards doing that again. I am planning some programs at the library to be open for what the Historical Fencing Guild was. Talking about tools, talking about technique, helping apply basic education outside of people hitting each other with sticks. For me, from the very beginning of my martial journey, to all better than 25 years now of doing it, it was not about me. Very early on, I had parts that were about me, but that wasn't my motivation. Quickly, I had an opportunity to help train people who were discarded by my instructor, who were seen as people he had to take in, but really weren't worth his time. And the choice of that, ironically, for as much as I am loath of that individual, greatly shaped me, because it started me on the path of trying to format and train for people that would otherwise be neglected. It has been my privilege to work with a very large number of women, people with men and women with handicaps, emotional traumas, physical traumas, many of them sexual assault survivors, people that desperately needed a way to reclaim their power. And yet, despite all the horrors they'd encountered, some of them were combat veterans. These individuals had the ability to maintain the dream of being something more, of growing through the martial arts to become their own main character. Some of them, it was about retaking their power. Some of them, it was about controlling their anger. Some of them, it was about just staying alive for the next 24 hours and then doing it again. There's nothing like that. Now, in the world of Western martial arts, in the world of what we do, fighting is common. You can find a lot of people who can teach you how to fight. Most of it's in a dueling format. A few will come from a melee perspective. I like to think every duel is a melee that is just getting started. And the reason I say that is the natural, organic development of a physical altercation. Very often, we learn this from our youth. Sorry, I'm parched. That what starts off is one person v one person quickly and often expands into something much broader. So if you are training either in martial skills or in practical analysis of combat, it is so important to realize that the parameters can change. And I do not see a lot of individuals ever broaching that topic. The evolving battlefield is something that we need to understand. It's something we need to hold on to. It's something we need to see. And we need to have discussions like this. And that's what the Guild did and does. For me, as I said, I am an instructor first. And I have, for a very long time, been working with people who life and things just haven't been able to bring practices together. Much of it my fault. We had some very unpleasant necessities going on that should be rectified in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, if that does not expand. So I am now getting into a position to do the work. A final big push, if you build it, they will come. And I've been gathering quietly behind the scenes a set of equipment to make it easier. We have plans to redo the list field. The list field has been covered so that the weeds that constantly grow up in it should be dead by now under a solar tarp. A large part of the summer and through till it's still currently covered. We hope to then mulch over that with something to try to stabilize it. We may be able to get the area rolled first and make it much safer, because my yard is not a very flat place. We do have the targets up. And you'll note I'm saying we, and this is because I'm going to be taking on some new students. They've reached the age where they can, and a few are very cusp of the age that they can. So I will be doing programs at the Benton County Public Library to be determined. People who have followed on this channel and follow on my other channel, the Nicholas Talker channel, or unless you're watching on Twitch or Kick, at which point you'd see both, would be able to see that I've been working on this for a while. And some of the names will be familiar to you. I'm very excited to get that ball rolling. And if it means stepping back to doing the educational portion outside for a while and then building up to get the sparring portion, then that's what we need to do. You'll notice my hair was dramatically changed from last time I broadcast. That had to do with the difficulties we had for the last few weeks. It became necessary. It's also helping me with the fact that I take what are called heat death medications. The side effect of those medications is I'm entirely susceptible to heat. We are working on countermeasures. That being said, I am also setting up the resources so that people who may not have what they need to work on things can come within the guild and use mine. And I'm very excited about that. So I want to bring up a little bit of a teaser to show you some of the things that I've been working on in Choir. Now, I do have the kind of small crank forge that you can get through Amazon. Little knife maker's forge. I will be using that very soon. It's going to get mounted and tacked down to something. I'm pretty sure I've got that all set up. I'm excited. If that works, I'm made in the shade in many ways for the smaller projects. But for the larger projects, I need to bring up some ugly images. We'll start here, guys. Pardon the angle. Things had to be shoved in my garage, and the garage hasn't been redone. But what you see in the middle there is an actual forge. There's a forge I acquired with a beautiful dumped part, ash dump for under it, and a great air line in, so you can actually run a blower and then use the valve to adjust the speed and strength of the air coming into the system. This is going to revolutionize what I can do when I, more towards knife making and the larger projects. I also acquired that's the next thing we're going to see. This looks hideous, but what this is actually coal. I acquired a large quantity of actual coal as opposed to the regular charcoal that I've been using to forge. Now, all of that comes together to mean I can make things. Now, many of you are immediately going like, I hinted, blade making, let's go. This is where that's not necessarily accurate, because I have two other metal working tool systems that need to be applied to this for the picture to truly become clear. I have what's called a throatless shear, sometimes referred to as a Beverly shear, which allows someone to manually cut metal into curves very simply, very nicely. And I have a small welder. Over the course of this summer, I intend to reignite, pun intended, intend your puns, you cowards, the Historical Fencing Guild's forging. Hello, Angelina. Wonderful. I will be actually doing a lot of metal working, but it may not be as blades work centered as many of you think. It will be, but it won't be. In that, while I do wish to produce blades and such, if that's a necessity, I will also be focusing on producing the riggings, because one can easily go and for a much lower cost than the items, acquire the fencing blades, okay, that one would use to the steel blades. Now, I intend to retire all my fencing swords due to age and treatment, and also they represent a part of my life, a stage in my life. I want to move past that. I want to start forging and shaping all my own gear. If I didn't make it, it gets retired. So that when I rejoin with people like James Robertson, when I rejoin with people like Trilaina Bachman, if you go through the old videos, and please, there's some great stuff in there. Videos of training. You'll see us interacting with steel. That is still my passion. I switched to the polypropylene because it was cheaper for everybody. It was something that required next to no maintenance, and it would something very, very cool. But my heart will always belong to steel swords. It's just who and what I am. So there will always be a part of me longing to feel that. However, as anybody who looks into it, the cost of practical practice weapons is staggering. So it will be my goal to make and improve how I make assorted riggings fitted to stock fencing blades, ranging from practice foils on up, to be able to, at least in the region, provide specialized fencing swords for the varied students of historical combat at a minimum price, optimally, possibly and optimally. So you understand the long goal being for them to be able to bring their own materials, forge their own gear, and make it. Likewise, limited armoring. I have plans for some devices that will make it much simpler and easier to make, say, sabatons or bracers or sabatons, which are a type of arm guard. Again, very expensive to acquire. I am looking for the right mitten manuals. I'm sorry, I'm speaking in Nick. Clamshell. Okay, so over gauntlets to protect your hands from heavier combat, so that I can shape these and forge these into what we need. And that means in many cases, I'm going to have to spend this year, as soon as this is up, working on building my personal skills, working on using the tools to build the tools to have the tools to build the fancy stuff. It's all very much step in step. While I'm doing this, lockstep in with teaching the next generation both how to fight, how to hold up, and a self-defense mentality. There are other organizations that do that. I had great difficulty personally. However, certain branches of the Society for Creative Anachronism are amazing. And there's a lot that can be done. And you'd find them at sca.org. I'd just say be cautious. There are HEMA groups, historical European martial arts. There's another one, I think it's HAWA, historical armed martial arts. Angelina, message me your region, and what I'll do is I will do a deep dive for you and see if I can't find the local groups in your area, and if possible, their contact information for you. I'd be happy to do that. So just give me offline, obviously, I don't want your information doxed in any way, shape, or form. But I'll deep dive and I'll see what groups are local to you. Because unfortunately, the Historical Fencing Guild very often exists as a group outside of all the other groups very deliberately. And the only thing I've had to do is kind of make neutral conventions so people can cross-train. It's like I would love to have, I'm going to go by Bladed Thesis. I'd love to be able to spar with Bladed Thesis. He lives in Utah right now. But I think it would be very interesting to see how that man actually fights. I used to spar frequently with Swords Edge. There are a few others locally that I miss dearly. Chief among them, I love fencing with the Bachmans. Trey and Joey, though Joey doesn't admit to being as good as he is. And very importantly, my lovely wife, who was a SCA heavy fighter. She, to get back in shape, she had some severe health issues she had to work through. She needed a PEL, which is a very specific type of training target. And the simplest way to make it is a 5-gallon bucket, concrete, and a 4x4. Now, my plan was, as soon as the destruction next door was done, I was going to secure, build her a PEL. I have all the parts for it. But thanks to Facebook Marketplace, somebody had essentially made one for an entirely different purpose and was getting rid of it. So we literally came home today from the lovely town of Lafayette. A huge thanks to the gentleman who set this. This is an 8-foot 4x4. It is sunk into concrete, and we're going to wrap rope around it to protect it so it will last longer. And then she's going to use her training swords to beat the tar out of it to get herself back into shape. All of this is happening as I discover what I can and can't do around my own limitations. So the worst case scenario is I assemble a great deal of this. I build a site, and then I let the people who are actually able to run things better run them. That may be what it's called for. Right now, I'm just needing to acquire the right kind of quenching tank for a couple of my projects, because I'm going to be starting with classic blacksmithing things, making hooks and door pulls and, possibly even the nails, to develop the specific skills, because all the sword riggings, and I wish I knew where it was offhand, but I have a mild steel crossguard that was taken off my original preferred fencing sword. This how do I put it? You're just making simple arcs and then connecting them. When you break the parts of many of the sword rigs apart and you look at the components, They're fairly simple affairs. And again, I want to do live steel because, of course, I want to do live steel. Live steel forging is just cool. Making knives is cool. But I do not, like so many people, stop at knife making as knife and sword making as their pursuit. I am far more interested in making sure that I have the tools for the woodcraft and the metal crafts to make the fencing riggings, because that is the big price difference. And as long as I can find or relocate another tap and die to drill out bar stock of some sort and cross guards, I can make something beautiful. And I can help other people through that have access to it. So that's my personal mission. That's what this is about, equipment-wise. The other part is skill-wise. And I admit, I am mid-40s, low end of mid-40s, but mid-40s. It is time for me to seriously start pushing for more people who are not only capable of preserving and expanding on what we do guild style, both the fighting form and the training form, but who have the passion to want to be involved in that. Hello, some person. And I need many shelves. I also need the ability to run commercials on this channel, so I may actually have to do a little jog for just a second, because I will be back. I have to take care of something in a couple moments. So what I'm going to do is I am going to run an ad for one of my friends. And I'm trying to figure out, actually, I'll run my ad. I have an ad for my books. I'm going to run that to buy me enough time to run around the corner, and I will be back shortly. All right, guys, thank you for your patience. Let me bump us back to where we need to be. I need to be able to move a couple of those ads over to this. I haven't done it yet. Thank you. Some person, let's see. And hello. You need shelves. I do. I need shelves. I'm also being completely overrun by cats right now. There's nothing. It's night. It is dark. There's nothing to see. You can't see anything. Anyway, high dust use. But so I'm very excited at the prospect of hitting the major tiers of what I do and getting back into it. It means I'll be throwing some knives in the near future. It means I'll be forging tools, knives. I'll be doing leather working for some of the armor, possibly making some sheaths and other things. It's time to fold everything together of the varied skill sets that I have. And I think that on this, like I said, I think this is the 19th. If my memory is serving right, and I could be mistaken, I know this is the birthday of the Historical Fencing Guild. I believe it was the 19th birthday of the Historical Fencing Guild. I want, as an organization, I want to elevate it, and I want to bring us all forward. So the younger students that I have in the area will start getting the Historical Fencing Guild workshops treatment, just like we did. My big equipment expenditure will be something that looks relatively harmless to use as sword simulating objects, and tape and or the sticks to do the chalk marking to give them the footwork. Because the footwork's going to be important. I know that right now things are uneasy. Things can be scary, they can be intimidating. And with that as an option in reality, I have to help people so that they have the least amount of chance to end up feeling like me, like I did at certain points in my life. I want them to be better. I want them to be stronger. I want them to be wiser. I want them to have the confidence that I was not able to develop at that time, and the competence to match. Which is why many of my assorted hobbies are going to start splicing together in the next few weeks. Again, barring total disaster, which I'm doing my best to bulwark my home against, they're redoing the water, they're redoing the septic systems. Things could get very unpleasant very quickly around here, so I have to be cautious. But people need old men with neat toys and more skills than perhaps they appear, to share what they know and what they have, to pass this on to younger generations and old women too. No, I'm not letting you off. I'm just going by the standards I personally have to follow. So I am hoping that the ability to get the forging. Hi, Houston, Texas, Dave. How are you? To get the forges plural started, to get the cat's opened my door. Give me just a moment. I have to close the door because we're going to hear Minecraft noises. And I don't want to hear a bunch of Minecraft noises and then get in trouble for it. No harm, no foul, but we're being careful. Now, so hopefully that means new live streams. Hopefully, yeah, cat fencing too. Oh, but Stuart the Sword Cat is notorious for that, and I don't know where he went. Dusty's in here. Stuart may have left. Hi, Dusty. Hi. Yeah, I bugged you. I told you it was dark. Yeah, you're not going to get... Yeah, it's your fault. Okay, come on. What? Yeah. You caused trouble, didn't you? Great. This is a 20-pound cat. This is a 20-pound cat. You go see if you can't crack open the door. But you can't do that. Yeah, you can hang out on the bottom, but I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that. Anyway. And I know often I've been accused of a cat fencing comic could be amusing. Of repeating myself. I talk about a lot of the same things. And there's a distinct reason for that. It's because I tend to stay in my lane. A great many people will puff up and they will proclaim themselves, the height of swordsmanship, the bearers of these great martial secrets. you know. And I'm not such a guy. I am someone who worked very hard to develop a basic style that anyone who wants to learn defense can. And then from that as a foundation, grow it into their own personal style. And I've really looked at what the boundaries are. When we get into the Historical Fencing Guild, why I do the Historical Fencing Guild, it's because I see people slamming into the boundaries. Some people slam into the isms. And I'm not even going to list the whole list of them, but, people with physical limitations, or their skin is one color, or, or another color, or not enough one color, whatever. Religion, all these things. These are silly reasons. Their gender, lack of apparent gender, their what, I don't care. That should not be a reason to stop someone from fencing. Their economy. I'm not going to lie. I believe and have for a long time that the economy is going to get worse. And it will such times make the luxuries of education much harder to come by, especially education that might be not work oriented. And yes, this is great. Dave says the basics of simple swordsmanship are like dancing moves. There's an elegance to it. Exactly. In fact, that's very... Okay, Dusty, down. Dusty, okay, wait. We're having full-on cat problems. Okay, I have to do a feline injection now. No. Oh, yeah, you know what this means. 1 second. Here, this way you don't have to stare at my butt. I'll bring up the Pell. Yeah, there's the Pell. Dusty, yeah. Yeah, you done goofed. Have fun, cat. I do not usually mind them, but when they are actually knocking my cables around, it can be a bit problematic. But people who watch my broadcasts know. But yes, there is a simple elegance in it. And when I say I do these drills every day religiously, do I miss one or two when I'm sick or injured? Of course. Unfortunately, I'm limited by my humanity. But then I'm back at it. Some of you haven't been around long enough to know the time when all I could do is I had a severe reaction to a nerve test, and I lost the ability to use my hands for quite some time. I have a type of progressive paralysis. So far, it's staying very slow, and it hasn't really bumped into my neuropathy too bad. But I have to do a large number of occupational and physical therapy just to keep moderately functional. Throughout it all, I've been doing the drills. After that incident, when my hand stopped working, I was still doing the drills without the sword. And I built back up. It's taken me years, but it's worth it to build back up, because I have had to build back up several times from several different injuries. And the basics are where I live. Simple concepts that just work. That's what the simple sword was built on. What are all these guys agreeing on? Maybe we should focus on that. I think there's too much survivorship bias kind of thinking in martial arts where people argue, well, this is better because, they could do this, and this is better because they could do this. I don't care. What do you all agree works? Let's focus on that first. And what I want is to build something you don't hear, basic athleticism. I want to encourage basic ability to drill, train, and improve. Basic analysis. I want my students to be able to look at someone fighting, and they may not know the terminology of what they're doing, okay? Because who knows what system it could be? It could be a Prussian saber system. They're going to know if they're aggressive or defensive. They're going to know if they move circularly or they prefer to move linearly. Hopefully, they'll be able to analyze their reach and their measure and their timing. Because if you can track these things, you don't need the big showy stuff. Big showy stuff looks great, but very often it doesn't apply well. More so, there are a great many martial artists I find who study the arts, and maybe they perform katas of different systems called different things, but basically katas, memorized techniques. Literal dances, thrust and bend and do and go. And it's a beautiful form. But if the instructor does not mirror the kata with the application, it doesn't work very well. So what I find is people jump and they want to play a song, but if they don't do their scales, they don't reach their full potential. And I want my students to be able to do that. I want them to have that. I want them to have a basis so that when they go learn something else and they're presented, here's a different set of doing things, they can go, which of these works for me? Which works better for me? And pick their own fighting style. Create a style born of their preference and necessity. Now, my first real sword master, the first person I really learned sword fighting from, beyond my original instructor, who we shall not mention, was a guy by the name of Dennis Yakus. Now, we had disagreements, absolute disagreements, and he made some poor choices, and things happened. But he was is a man with a severe disability that limits his range of motion. But he got very good at doing what he could. So if he only had a few ranges of motion, that's what he did. And he did it till he was good at it. He offset size, reach, strength, and mobility differences with observation and timing. And I got very good. Back when that was the only style I studied, I could imitate between 75 and 80%, sometimes more, of the style and technique of anybody I regularly fought. And then I could use myself as a training dummy for my students to emulate the opponents they were having difficulty with at a lower level, like an inoculation. I don't have what I used to physically. And I will be looking to see what I have in the coming weeks. I'm going to be on the slow and frankly painful process of going back from what I consider maintenance, which is I do my drills every day, to back in training. And for me, That's a lot more physical development. That's a lot more drills. That's a lot more focus. That's a lot more watching my systems and setting up to be going by the rules I have to off the field to be able to do what I want to on the field. That's dietary, that's hydration, that's medication. That is the full package to be the version of me that they need, because I won't be it for myself. I've always seen myself as a support class. Okay. There is a pinnacle that a lot of people reach for. And I've never had what it took to get to that pinnacle. I've trained people who had what it took to get to that pinnacle. I've worked with people. This may be a case of those who can do and those who can't teach. It's possible. But I can see it. I can analyze the glory of what my students can do. I can analyze the beauty in what they're interested in. And I can help them go, okay, this is how you fight. This is what you want to do. Let's go look up the masters to get you in line to build that up. Because my goal is obsolescence. It's always been my goal. My end goal as an instructor, even as somebody who runs the guild, is to be totally unnecessary. Not disregarded, not forsaken, but totally unnecessary for that particular individual. I want them to be able to do everything I do better. And to do so. And I've had a great many who could, but they weren't oriented that way, and that's fine. If it's not your calling, it's not your calling. There's no judgment. There's no hassle. Certainly no regret. But the guild was always meant to be a boost to the next level. Now, you can always play with us. We will all, guild members, unless you do something truly despicable, we're always welcome. Okay? I want you to, what I want, if I'm greedy, what I love, is when I have somebody who participates in the guild, loves what we do, has run off in their own direction, picked up skills, and then came back. Thank you, Dave. And we've had this at different points. We've had my absolute favorite practice. I can still remember. It was held at a guy named Steve's house, Steve Clausen. He's a bladesmith now. I'm very proud of him. He works elsewhere in IT, makes more money than I can imagine. But in his other time, he's a bladesmith. He could teach me far more about smithing than I could imagine. But he lives in Texas. Goes to the Texas Run Fair. If you ever plan to go out that way, Dave, let me know, and I'll get his corporate information so that you can go see him and say, like, hey, you know Nick. But he also did some styles of different approaches with karambit and I'm going to say paramilitary, because he was a contractor. He was not a government veteran. Yeah, he's good people. I can't remember. I know he was involved in Boss Blades, and there's a number. I don't think it's Angel Sword. Oh, God. I have to go look it up again. But, no, I'll just reach out to him. I need your information. But he was teaching one set of style fighting. We had another veteran who was teaching something really kind of fun and shady. One of the Chinese martial artist guys was actually, might have been Sword's Age, come to think of it, was over working a group through some Jin work. My buddy Al was either doing Olympic fencing or he was doing the other, like Pensalot versus something else. Anyway, but I came out, I believe Trey was running a buckler class, essentially, but very organically. And I looked, and there were these gaggles, and as natural breaks would happen, people just mill about to the next one. And I came out and I did what I do. Even within the guild, my job is to get the zero to level 1 jump. I do that because, one, it's one of the most dangerous to do for the trainer, and it can be one of the most dangerous to do for the student. So that even within the within the elementary school of how the historical fencing guild can work, I'm oftentimes fencing guild, sword fighting kindergarten. I'm also the special needs class. And that rarely is mental special needs, but sometimes it is. But I'm the one who, okay, you're blind. Let's work with this. This is how we'll adapt. You have limited mobility. Okay. You have to use a mobility, what's a cute word? A mobility device. You have to fight with a cane, fight with a stick, fight from a walker, fight from a wheelchair. Okay. We will adjust the rules to make it where you are functional, and we'll do what we can to help build you up. But rest assured, I'm going to ride you about the things you can do to make up for or exceed the things you can't. And it is a gambit. Sometimes it's going from some people who, dear Lord, how do you walk across a room? Up to and including the points of, please go see a doctor and have your inner ear checked. All the way up to, okay, you've done dance. You've done some light martial arts in different styles. I can't teach you how to move. You already move. I have to teach. We have to discuss how to turn how you move into an effective way to fight. Because the simple sword is what I teach to everybody. It is the basis. Everybody comes in with this. Everybody has to deal with me taking away crossing your legs. For some measure, it may only be the first half of the first discussion. Let me see how you walk. But we go from how you stand to how you walk to how you lunge to how you dance. How you run. And then once we have it, how do we interact you with a group of people who have now a common background but very different approaches? Where can we put you in the line to make it as effective for you as them? And from that point is where we build people up. And then, maybe you find a group outside the guild. Actually, I prefer it. Maybe you join a LARP. Maybe you join Bowhurt. I mean, I've worked with Bowhurt people. I've worked with Amp Guard people. I've worked with Canorac people way back. I've worked with people in different Eastern systems like Taekwondo and stuff. What are you doing and how you do that? Okay. Why are you doing that? What do you think that's for? Let's figure out what that's for. Things like that. Some is teaching. Some is just having that conversation. And when I get the right people, I can then say, hey guys, we have somebody who does this. Come by. So I am planning outreach practices this summer. I just have to reach out to the guild who's local and the students who are local and make the facilities ready. And that's what I'm going to do. Oh, wonderful. Space City Fencing Academy. That's cool. What kind of fencing do they teach? I will admit I am terrible when it comes to collegiate fencing because I don't think in right of way. It's a horrible set of habits. But if there's a good local group, and I'm sure there are multiple in Houston, it's a very beautiful city. I've been there. It's been a long time, but I have. It sounds cliche, but the best steak I ever had was in Houston, Texas. Actually, in the Walmart parking lot of Houston, Texas, because my parents were pulling a trailer. We stopped, we got some steak, and we just grilled it right there. I still dream about that steak. I'm not even lying. I've literally dreamt about that steak. I could do that steak, do some steak right about now. Although with the price of beef, who knows? Anyway, they have camp stuff for young kids. Fencing, then they excellent. If you have the interest, please pursue it. Please, it's a delightful system. I am literally an exiled, half crippled sword master, literally out in the boondocks. I just have had the privilege of working with some truly talented and amazing people. And I had a couple instructors at key points in my life that I learned a lot from. And I appreciate, regardless of the social or whatever happened, I appreciate what I learned from them. And some of them I genuinely miss, and a couple I genuinely mourn. But I hold them as the ideals for which I strive. Are those ideals perhaps beyond me? Quite likely. But that makes them the best kind. If they were achievable, what would be the point? I suppose that's a little mad, but this is me you're talking to. Madness tends to run right parallel with what I do. So I have to go confirm and talk that out with Mandy. A few things. I have to set up how I'm going to work with others. And I need to go back into just doing what I love. I want to thank everybody who wished my son happy birthday. He did just turn 17. We are filing the different paperwork, or trying to be able to continue protecting him as long as he's needed. But he will be at the practices. He probably won't participate. To answer that question, folks. Will I be doing craft nights? As I find ways to get the gear mobile, yes, absolutely. Will I do instruction? Yes. I will probably go back to formatting anything that isn't combat through the Benton County Public Library, because that's probably the simplest way to do it for me. And just like my style, sometimes when you don't know what to do, you just step back to the basics, because that's always safe. That is your foundation. All right? Guys, thank you for coming on. Please share this around. I need to reach out to some old friends and just be appreciative. But till I see you guys, keep your guard up, keep your eyes open, do your drills, be kind to yourself and each other. And friends, I will see you next week because we're back in business, I think, folks. Toodles.